Well, I tell you what, this was not on my bingo card for 2025, but I'm very glad it's happening. We're getting a Bad Guys TV show. Now you might be thinking, come on smarty pants, the last two Netflix installments of The Bad Guys were mid at best, and whilst that's true, I can't help but feel like this might be different. Maybe I'm being delusional, but I do think there's a significant difference between a Christmas special and a serialized TV show. Just the other day we got a trailer for the first season, so I figured today would be a good a day as any to dive into the trailer and see what we can piece together about the story. Before we do that though, Netflix has given us a little description on what to expect from the new show. They're getting bigger, bolder, and badder. Get to know the bad guys before they made Heistery. Like I said, it is, quite literally, a little description, so it's clear that this is an origin story of sorts for the bad guys. In the second movie that came out earlier this year, we saw the introduction of Webbs on her first heist with the bad guys as a sort of initiation to see if she could truly be part of the team. I would imagine that this show's set after that, but before they were truly recognised as master criminals. Here they're just regular crooks causing some mischief and trying to make a name for themselves. This is honestly a perfect premise for a kids' cartoon that's tied into a movie franchise. You can flesh out the story as much as you want, it won't really have an impact on the future plot lines in the movie, and you can have a progressive narrative where you build up the relationships between the characters and have an obvious goal that you're working towards instead of a story that's just happening to them. Honestly, this story could go on as long as you wanted it to, which is the brilliant part. I do wonder if we're going to get to see other characters from the films like Diane or Luggins, even Marmalade. I can't quite recall if there's a specific time frame between the introduction of Webbs and the present day bad guys, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if there isn't, you could do so much with this. I mean, you can still have Diane as the Crimson Paw and have her meet the bad guys at some heist. That's how far back you could go. The possibilities are endless, which is why I'm so excited for the show. Now I think we should dive into the trailer and see what's in store for the bad guys. I do love the breaking the fourth wall narration by Wolf as he informs us that his new team are daring super criminals called the bad guys. He hears sirens and is all ready to gloat about his endeavours, only for them to speed right past him, completely ignoring whatever they were up to. It's clear from the trailer he desperately wants them to become famous and renowned criminals. It's not enough to step up and wreak havoc. They want prestige and notoriety for committing crimes. Further scenes show us that they're not exactly the smooth criminals they become as of the first movie. They get knocked to the ground by a swinging chandelier, and in the next scene, there seems to be a giant hot dog falling to the ground followed by Wolf and Snake screaming. They're making rookie mistakes, which could be really funny if it led to their namesake. They're not called the bad guys because they commit terrible crimes. They're called the bad guys because they commit crimes terribly. I kind of love that idea, and I hope they do something like that, because surely they couldn't be committing so many crimes, even poorly executed ones, that get absolutely no recognition. I mean, are people just not going to notice the various break-ins and things being stolen? It does seem the further along we go in the trailer that it becomes more clear it's going to be an obvious continuing story. It already made sense from the idea that they want to become famous criminals, but with a statement referencing a hesitation, I would expect that maybe each member of the bad guys comes up with a crime they want to commit, and they do them all back to back in the hopes that committing as many crimes as possible in a short span of time will get them noticed. The show won't just be episodic with one crime and then they don't quite achieve their goal of notoriety but succeed just enough to make it feel like the story's progressing. No, there's going to be an obvious linear path with different story beats throughout the season, leading to one common goal. I like this immensely. It's good to see more animated shows heading in this direction. Obviously, not every episode of every show needs to be plot heavy, and some shows don't suit this type of writing, but here it works and it makes me excited. There's a whole bunch of hype scenes about how they're the greatest criminal group in history, which is somewhat hilarious. I won't deny that they do eventually become this, but it feels a bit ludicrous calling yourself the greatest criminal group in history if you keep stuffing up your crimes and failing to get noticed. Hell, we've only briefly seen 2 crimes be committed that actually went off pretty well without significant problems, and even then they had some hiccups. The first was when Wolf and Snake robbed the bank way back in their introduction in the first movie, and then Webb's introduction in the beginning of the second movie where they steal the black car. However, that's only a success because they get away in the end, but it wasn't smooth sailing. They were nearly caught and they were only saved by Webbs in the end through sheer ridiculousness. So I feel that Wolf is inflating his ego just a little bit, but that's okay. Now I kind of want to go into the scenes a little bit more in depth because there's a lot going on in the trailer and we need to get the premise out of the way first. You'd think that with the way the trailer's constructed that certain scenes were probably made to just grip the audience into understanding what's going on rather than being present in the actual show. We know that Wolf loves to break the fourth wall and act like he's in a documentary about his criminal life, but would it really be relevant to tell said camera, cue the music, even in this scenario? Well, actually, I think yes. It's a cleverly edited trailer, but I think all the scenes will actually be purposeful in the narrative. For example, I imagine here Wolf is actually talking to one of the other bad guys to, like he said, cue the music for some type of distraction or tactic when conducting a heist. Next up, we see them all heading into a red car on the outskirts of the city, juxtaposed against another clip of Wolf driving them around in said car. This is interesting to me. So at the beginning of The Bad Guys 2, we see Webbs be initiated into this big heist where they steal Wolf's iconic black car. This all presumably happens before the show because Webbs is officially part of the team. Otherwise, the entirety of this show would be taking place before Webbs was officially part of it, which would make for a far more awkward dynamic. She's with them the whole time, partaking in numerous crimes, but she's not officially a member. It just feels unnecessarily messy. So it must take place after that initial scene in the second film. But this begs the question, what's the deal with the red car? If he has the black car and he literally vows in the second movie that he will never drive another car again, why does he have this red one? It's actually present in the Christmas special that was released on Netflix, but by the time of the Halloween special, they had that black car again. So what's the deal? Is the red car before they have the black car? Because that would make a lot of sense. It's nice, sure, but not as nice as the black one. It's clear in this trailer and the Christmas special it looks a little dirty and beat up, so what gives? Does he have two cars? It's possible, but I just couldn't see Wolf ever driving this red one when he has the black one in his possession. He loves it too much. So we know that Webbs doesn't become a full-fledged member of the team until Wolf gets the black car, but now we've seen multiple Bad Guys installments where they have this beat-up red car, but Webbs is there the whole time and obviously is no less part of the team than anybody else. So what gives? I hate timeline errors with a fiery passion. Wolf does highlight that they're a new team of daring supercriminals, so it's clear that they haven't been together long. I hope that we get to see all their special skills shine through. We've already seen Webbs display her talent in computers and hacking, but we could have Shark's disguises, Snake's adaptability and breaking into anything, Piranha's insatiable appetite for violence, bonus points for gaseous weapons, and then Wolf's charisma that can get him anywhere. Having a show exploring their start as villains and developing their friendships, that should be a lot of fun. Next up, we have a scene of it seems Snake, Shark, and Wolf breaking into some sort of art gallery, but Wolf brings with him some sort of marble bust. Why would he have this? Why wouldn't he be trying to steal said bust? Unless he's trying to replace it with a fake, which I mean, sure, that technically makes sense, although why they wouldn't just steal it, I don't know. If they want more notoriety, it should be obvious that the real thing's missing, rather than replacing it with a lookalike that might take people ages to realize isn't the real thing. See, they should hire me to be their hype man. I'd get them famous. Wolf then drives off fast and explains how a getaway is part of the heist. And that makes sense, except that feeling that it doesn't seem like it's going to last too long. I mean, these clips could all be from separate robberies or crimes, but in my experience, trailers from Netflix are often early episode heavy. So I would imagine that this is from the same getaway where you see Wolf looking seriously concerned over at Piranha, and then Wolf, Shark, and Piranha looking back to see what's going on behind them. Wolf kind of looks angry, whilst the other two look nervous and scared. This is then paired up with another scene where Wolf turns back and says, "That's right, it's us, the bad guys," only for the emergency vehicles to speed right past them and not care at all about what they've been up to. Here you can see Shark smiling, so I'm not sure that these are all from the same scene, especially when the camera angles change so drastically and the car seems to be heading in opposite directions. So now I'm not sure, but I'm leaning that there are at least two separate scenes, possibly three if you include the getaway scene. In any case, Wolf seems offended that they weren't being chased by the authorities, which does beg the question as to whether the getaway is as good as he hoped. It seems that part of the fun's actually having the attention of people who want to stop them and evading them anyway, which means that when they rob a place or cause mischief and aren't caught, it doesn't have the same feeling or effect. It almost makes me feel sorry for them. Almost. We have another cleverly edited clip where it's obviously a completely different context, but the sentiment expressed is clearly what Wolf was feeling in the previous scene when them were ignored. That it's offensive. We see the bad guys break into something that looks eerily similar to Squid Game, where there's a long bridge across a room elevated considerably from the ground. I expect that this is a residence of somebody rich and powerful. There are multiple portraits on the walls of the same person, although we can't see their face. It also has this sickly sweet type of vibe, which definitely makes you feel like you won't really care if they rob this person. It feels sinister, but maybe that's just my Squid Game flashbacks talking. There's another scene where the bad guys are running away and a swinging chandelier manages to hit them off the hallway and supposedly in the next shot knock them straight onto the floor below. How that chandelier managed that? No idea. I didn't think it would be part of the same place that we saw in the previous scene, but maybe this is some sort of high-level security where inanimate objects attack people in the house when they shouldn't be there. That's definitely something I'd expect from the previous scene, so maybe it's the same place. Tonally though, they just feel so different. Guess we'll have to wait and see. We then see a huge hot dog falling to the ground, followed by Wolf and Snake, who both seem to have some sort of jetpack type contraption. Interesting to use Snake in this endeavor. I mean, he has no arms. How on earth is he supposed to use the handles and propel himself upward whilst also holding said hot dog that I presume they stole from the top of that truck way down below? My idea of them being named the bad guys because they're genuinely bad at being criminals is holding more weight to it as time passes on. Next up, we have a scene where it seems that Piranha's driving a car with the TV reporter in the passenger seat. Are they holding her hostage? Are they doing an interview with her to display how truly bad they are? Surely neither could end well. I mean, it's a shock that they haven't been caught considering how bad they are at being criminals, especially since Luggins is acutely aware of their existence, so surely it couldn't be that hard to find them. I mean, they've sat down at cafes and walked into a bank rather easily. If they were truly the criminal elite, surely there'd be wanted signs everywhere and they'd immediately be hounded by the police everywhere they go. It's hard to say how famous they are. Might just depend on what the situation needs. Clearly, Piranha can't drive well and is probably performing donuts in the car as we see him spinning out in the steering wheel. This transitions to another scene where we see what seems to be Wolf, Piranha, and Shark surrounded by this reindeer motorbike gang. I don't know, it's difficult to tell. They just look like they have horns coming out of their helmets. I wonder what they did to deserve this. It seems that Shark and Wolf also have helmets on. Were they trying to infiltrate the group? Why? I assume that since Piranha's the one without the helmet on, he let the cat out of the bag and now they're in serious trouble. We have Webbs back in the art gallery, clearly getting ready to hack something, maybe getting rid of lasers. I'd assume so. We see the marble bust that they seemingly want to swap out, but I can't help but feel that there's more to this plan. The way it's angled and with the painting straight across from Webbs, I imagine there's some type of safe behind the painting they want to steal. I could just be reading too much into it though. Seems a bit much to steal both, but we'll have to wait and see. I assume in a round of suggestions, Webbs puts forth her plan to blow up the moon. There's clearly more to it because Wolf likes her plan except for that particular aspect, but geez, kid's in deep. I would have thought that somebody who could hack into pretty much any computer system would have a bit more understanding about the negative impacts that would fall from removing the moon from the Earth's orbit, but I guess not. Following on from that, we have Snake looking at what seems to be some sort of hologram with 4 pinpoints in the city. In the background, you can see some sort of gas tank behind him. I wonder if that's part of the jetpack contraption they used earlier to steal the hot dog. This could be before or after this, not really sure. The hologram shot's lined up with 3 colourful necklaces that are immediately stolen. I think this is another classic case of clever editing. The points aren't referencing individual necklaces and their colouring, although at a quick glance it might look that way. There's 3 necklaces and 4 checkpoints, and the colours just don't seem to match just right. What I am getting at though, the longer and more in depth we go into the trailer, is that this season is going to be stacked with various crimes and heists, which is great. I do love an action-heavy plot. We have another look at the art gallery scene where we see Wolf and Snake initially scoping out the security measures, and that's interesting to me. Earlier we saw them scale down from the roof alongside Shark, and I presumed that would only happen after all the lasers were turned off thanks to Webbs. So this has to be at an earlier point when they were figuring out what measures they were going to take to presumably steal whatever they want from here. The next scene then shows Shark, Piranha, and Webbs at the entrance to some massive safe with what looks to be crown jewels. Isn't this set in Los Angeles? Who could have this type of stuff to steal? There's some secret royal family there I don't know about? Maybe there's royals in the bad guy's alternate Los Angeles, who knows? Either that or they've broken into Meghan and Harry's house, I don't know. I like Shark's getup here. Feels like an early attempt at his disguise shtick. I love it. We then have a quick scene with Piranha asking Wolf whether there'll be mayhem, which just fits well tonally with the trailer. Man, it's like the writers of the show had the trailer in mind when they wrote this script. These lines fit ridiculously well. After that, we see Wolf standing in an interesting room. There's multiple glass tubes that go to this ceiling, with one of them containing what looks to be soft toys. I have absolutely no idea what this could be. The camera zooms in on his face and he clearly seems happy about something as he says the words, "Oh yeah." I assume that they found something or pulled something crucial off in this particular heist. Piranha then seems to be sitting in the driver's seat in a car watching a stone building crumble right beside him. Clearly something's gone very wrong here. I doubt the bad guys wanted that to happen. There's more to thieving than just mass destruction. My bet is that this is the art gallery from earlier. Piranha's the only one we didn't see in that scene, so it makes sense that he'd be the getaway man. Plus, the building looks like where an art gallery would be. It's just the height of the car as opposed to the building? It looks suspended in the air, which is odd. Either that or he's parked on the roof of a nearby building. Following on from that, we have Shark, Piranha, and Snake seemingly making their way down the staircase of what seems to be that mansion from earlier, where the chandelier supposedly knocked them all to the floor below. Maybe that was just a clever cut though, because here we see them all making their way downstairs and getting electrocuted in the process. What's more interesting though is the background. What's with the Snake portraits? Is this Snake's old house? Is that Snake himself? Is it a relative of his they're robbing? It looks like he comes from a wealthy family, but maybe joined a criminal gang when they clearly had loads of wealth to begin with. I can only assume that was stifling his personality and that's why he left them, or he's been disinherited or whatever. I can't believe that this would be a mansion that just belongs to this random Snake with no affiliation to our guy. It would be too weird. There's history here, or history, if you will. Then we have a scene where they accelerate the car so hard, literal flames come out of it and they make a jump from some property through a fire hoop. I have a feeling this might be the crazy Squid Game house. Looks fairly normal outside, but I don't know, doesn't seem usual to have a wooden jump that leads to a fiery hoop. That seems more like a creepy place's MO to me. In any case, the bad guys managed to get on TV for this awesome stunt, so they're finally getting attention. Wolf then goes to take a selfie with the gang whilst they're driving, and I realize he's not literally behind the wheel, but come on man, that's poor form. You're a criminal, not a degenerate. Road safety is a serious business. Make sure Piranha's eyes stay firmly on the road at least. Another clever edit happens here where they want you to think that it's the very next scene, but it's cut. Here, the hot dog that was falling from the sky earlier is stood behind them. I wonder how that happens. I mean, the hot dog was falling ahead of them, so if this was the same fall, Wolf and Snake would probably need to be rescued or have the perfect backup plan to land perfectly in their getaway car and start driving, only for the hot dog to land, clip them, and cause the car to fly in the air. I'm starting to think that this hot dog's going to get airborne a couple times that episode. The gang then runs from their classic elevator into their lair, and I wonder if they'll even have the lair at the beginning of the season because it doesn't necessarily look like it. There's been multiple scenes where they've been planning in rooms that don't look anything like we've seen from the movie, so I presume they get an upgrade, even though to me, their lair looks pretty drab and dank to begin with. Just like I said, that creepy Squid Game bridge falls and the bad guys slide down it screaming. We see the portrait more clearly and it's a lady hippo with a large lollipop. I feel like this episode is just going to get more and more creepy. There's so many unanswered questions. Right before the title screen, we have Wolf seemingly laying out a plan for their latest heist, where he makes a play on the word history with heistery. Unfortunately for him though, they didn't get it first try, so he's embarrassed. The title screen emerges with the names of the show, The Bad Guys Breaking In, with a release date of the 6th of November. I like the title. It's a smart play on words that they're obviously breaking into places, but the bad guys are also trying to break into the business as a team. The way you break in a new shoe when it initially hurts and is sore, but over time it becomes comfortable. That, I assume, will be the trajectory of the show. In the movies, you're often so caught up with the action and the funny bits that you don't get to explore the bad guys' relationships with one another all that much. Sure, there's conflict in the team, particularly in the first movie, and you can recognize that they're close, but here I think they can really flesh out the bonds with each other, and I hope I'm right in thinking that that's what they want to do, because I'd really like to see it. I can't wait for the show to come out, and I hope it does really well. With all that being said though, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the upcoming Bad Guys show? Are you excited for it? Maybe not? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.